And welcome inside DETV Sports. It's Casual Thursday here at DETV.
I missed the memo.
Nick Alessandrini, Jason McCall, a new graduate in the house. Jason, congratulations again.
Thank you.
You're set to get started, so you'll be feeling yourself today. The coach, Joe Richmond, how we doing today, guys? It's been a while for us.
Been a while, yeah.
Yes.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. A lot has happened since the last time we have all gotten together, and we're just going to dive right into it. We've got some time. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers.
Do we have to?
We have to. Yeah, we're going to have to today.
And moving right along.
A touchy subject here at DETV,
Very touchy.
and I'm sure for everyone at home here in Delaware and from wherever you're watching, it was a pretty bad games 5 and 6 for the 76ers. Again, game 5, or first at home in Philadelphia and in Miami as well. But guys, just first off, the Sixers now again losing that second round series to the Miami Heat. So again, since 2001, have been unable to get past that second round. James Harden, everybody's been talking about that second half, just 2 shots, and one of those shots coming so late in the game it didn't even matter. So technically 0 for 1 in that second half. Joel Embiid not playing horrible, dealing with those 3 injuries, but overall the Sixers, they just didn't have it in round 2, Joe. What did you see in those 2 games and when they were honestly blown out in those last 2?
Oh, man.
A lot to unpack here.
Well, I'm going to start off. Listen, team chemistry is a reality. It's a real thing. You know what I mean? And if you looked at the trade that was made between us and the Nets, we both lost. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no team chemistry. Sometimes superstar talent kind of masks that a little bit, and that's what we got from James. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But not to really be out there the way, it's nothing. There's no substitute for training camp and camaraderie and all those different things that are built throughout a season. But at the end of the day, they are professionals and they're tasked with coming out and doing their job. And I think it's just I look at 2 words that I saw that was missing, and it was accountability and responsibility. And sometimes some didn't want to take the accountability. Then we didn't know who was responsible for what at times. You know what I mean? And we can talk about the X's and the O's and what wasn't done. We know all the stats, we know all the analytics. But, eventually it comes down to a team. And when you make those late trades that time of year, that's a team thing. You know what I mean? How do you come together? They were doing some team building things of that nature. But, man, kudos to the Heat, man. They came ready to play, and you can see the continuity in them. You can see the accountability in them. You can see the responsibility of all of them. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's talking. Everybody's communicating. Everybody's happy for each other. They didn't care who scored. They didn't care who did what. And then they just had some dogs with them. You know what I mean? JB brought a couple pit bulls with him, and it showed, man. And I always said this before I got hired by the Sixers. I'm a fan first and employee second. You know what I mean? And as a fan, it hurts. You know what I mean? Because I love my Sixers. I love everything that we do. I think we do most of the things right as an organization totally. If you talk about the family, this, that, and the third, working environment, yada, yada, yada. And I think we do everything right, coaching staff as well. It's just some things that you just don't control. And the one thing I've always said about a coach, you don't control your shot going in. That's on you. You know what I mean? If you're getting up so many shots, you got to make sure those shots count. You know what I mean? One thing I used to love what they say about the Harlem Globetrotters, just do what we pay you to do. If you say you don't, then dunk the ball.
That's it.
If you say you shoot, then shoot the ball. If you say you dribble, then be a dribbler. And that's the truth. If that's what you say you do, then go do what you got to do. It's like when Jay does well, Nick does what he does well. And that's why we communicate well up here. You know what I mean? And then, you have a team. There's people behind the scenes that make sure this all looks good. And I think at a certain point in time, the team ain't say, forget coach. They're not winning on our court like Atlanta just did to us a year ago. You know what I mean? Like, that ain't happening again. We're not letting that happen in front of our fans.
Well, like it did.
And that's got to happen.
And that takes me,
shut up, man.
That takes
Turn his mic on. Turn his mic on.
And Jason, I'll come to you here again. Game 5 in Miami didn't go the Sixers' way. You're right. You're in Miami. You're down 3-2. But then you said you're right back at home at the Wells Fargo Center for Game 6. I mean, morale was still high, trailing 3-2. A lot of the thought here in the area, Jason, was that you're not going to come in and beat us here on our floor in Game 6. And not only did they blew them out at the Wells Fargo Center.
I was surprised. I I can't even explain what happened because I just knew it was going to be a Game 7. I mean, honestly, I was rooting for a Game 7 for the Sixers. I may be a Boston fan, but I'm a fan of the game overall, and I like certain matchups. So I wanted for the nostalgia to have a Boston versus Philadelphia matchup in the ECF. But let's talk about Eric Spoelstra. Like, why is he not in the top 5 coaches? Not just currently, but in that top 5 conversation.
The thing that just came out, he's considered one of the top.
Okay, now he is, but he should have been a couple years ago.
I do say still again, when everybody talks, the media, don't hear a lot about Eric Spoelstra in the regular season. And
you don't hear about the Heat either.
Just like the Heat, that's what I'm saying. Jimmy Butler, they were the 1 seed in the East, Jason. I think they were maybe 4th in the odds come playoff time to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Afterthought and everything in the news.
And that's kind of Jimmy Butler's story his entire career, right? He's been underrated, and
I think
here he is again.
With the Heat, it's just the system. The system's been in place for well over 20 years now. So, you have to start from the top with Pat Riley and Alonzo Mourning, then it filters through Spoelstra, and then you have the players that come in and they train for the system. Like, you can't come to Miami out of shape. You can't come to Miami on disciplinary reasons and things like that. You have to follow the structure of the team and follow the system, and everybody buys in. This is why players like Haslem can be there 18 years, not playing the last 3, but still be on the team because he's part of the culture. He's kind of like an extra coach. And then, and everybody you bring in has to know how to play defense. Has to be. They have high IQ basketball players in Miami.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, look at Gabe Vincent and Strus. Who were they before they got to the Heat?
Strus was Division II player in college.
Who were they? But they fit the system. So when you fit the system and you have a skill set that they can enhance, I liken it to what Steve Kerr does out in Golden State. They just find players for the system and they plug and play. And when you have a team like Miami that's been doing it for so long, if they're hot and they're healthy, they're hard to beat. So I understand my team's playing them right now, but it's going to be, if we don't show up in another game, it's going to be something else.
Definitely going to get there in a second.
But I like the way the Heat organization takes care of their players and takes care of everybody. And it's like you said earlier, family, camaraderie, just the oneness of being together. Miami has that and had it for a long time.
And not to cut you off, but like Pat Beverly said the other day, you look at Boston, they're going to take the makeup of a Marcus Smart. You know what I mean? Like the same thing with the Heat. They take the makeup of a Jimmy Butler.
Exactly.
They don't get too rattled. They don't go too fast. They don't get too, they beating you by 30 and they beating you by 2 and they still, you don't see Jimmy Butler really go jumping in somebody's arms. He's just looking at what's next. And that's what I really appreciate about how they went about their business during this playoff run.
Yeah, and Jason talked about it, the culture. What other guy fits that culture better than Jimmy Butler? And again, in the offseason back in 2019, some stuff with the Sixers. There was a member of the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously the sign and trade with Miami. And again, it's hard to even talk about now. But a lot of the comments when that sign and trade was done from Philadelphia fans or surrounding media outlets was, have fun in Miami, Jimmy. You're not getting past the second round, like leaving the Sixers to go be in Miami. Have fun. Have fun at the beach. Well, Jimmy Butler's been to the Eastern Conference Finals twice in the last 3 years. And now has a chance again to go back to the NBA Finals, something the Sixers have been unable to do so. So again, when he did that sign and trade with Miami, they had a lot less talent than the Sixers back then. People questioned why he would want to do that. Well, he is Miami again, trying to battle back to the NBA Finals for the second time in 3 years. So Jimmy Butler has been spectacular.
You know why he went there? It's the Marquette connection.
D-Wade.
D-Wade.
The reason why he's Miami. That's right. Shout out Evelina Alessandrini, Marquette Golden Eagle right there. Again, Doc Rivers, a Marquette Golden Eagle. And speaking of Doc Rivers, he will be back next year. I know we talked about that here in the last few weeks. So Doc, Daryl Morey coming out and saying he will be back with the team next year. After the game, Doc said, I just realized we didn't have the talent. We didn't have the roster to win this series. You guys agree with that?
I mean, kudos to Doc. They'll talk about accountability, responsibility, and it starts with the coach. So if the coach can say this is what, he recognizes some things, right, and say, okay, this is what we need to start with. And that's all it is. And it's about being true to yourself and true to what you're trying to do. I'm a Doc Rivers fan. Everybody knows that. I loved him as a player first. He was a gritty player. I'm surprised that this team hasn't taken on that part like the Boston teams did. They took on that Doc Rivers persona because he was a gritty, in-your-face type dude. So that's why him and Marcus Smart and those guys, Rondo, those guys, he was a thinker out there. And I'm surprised that we haven't taken on his persona, so to speak, based on how he was. is amazing. I'm glad he's back. I think that kind of just shuts everything down and says, okay, at least we know Coach is here. We going in the right direction. We have everything else in place. And, you just got to get back. Just like every other team in the NBA that's not playing in the playoffs, they're thinking the same way we are. But I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve because once you got a Joel Embiid, you got a James Harden, you got a Tyrese Maxey, you're ahead of the curve. And I think you got a great foundation right there. Then everything else moves out. And, not making any excuses, even that last game, I think a lot of things was done, the announcement of MVP coming out, maybe a mess with Joel a little bit. The first play, Danny Green goes down. Maybe that takes a little bit out of your psyche too. I think that really hurt them. I
mean, he was shooting the ball.
So there's a lot of different things, and and then like we said, when you got that superstar talent, some things get maxed, but then sooner or later you just run out, and there's nothing else you can do. So I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that we have an opportunity to go back to the table. And I'm confident that we're going to put a great product together that the fans are going to love, and I think we're going to make some noise going in next year. And I'm looking forward to the offseason. I'm looking forward to the draft and all those things as well.
And Jason,
I'll say this: you believe in Daryl Morey a lot more than I do.
And I believe in Daryl Morey too. I'm not a.
Doc is fine, but I'll say this: outside of that Boston team, what has Doc really proven as a coach in the playoffs? Early exits. LA, he had T-Mac for 6 years and didn't do anything. It's something. Something's there. Something's there.
And I'm not debating you always, but I can't. It comes back to sometimes. I mean, because as I played, it's many a times because I was the point guard. It's many a times I'm like, man, forget the coach. I'm not letting that loudmouth Jason beat me.
Right.
He ain't talking junk in my. Right. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's what I'm saying. Certain times that didn't happen. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's where I think where Doc might have been in those situations where he trying to coach, but really the players supposed to say, man, forget Doc. They not beating us. You know what I mean? And so I'm not making excuses for them, but sometimes I think the players do take that on at times, because Larry Bird was freaking infamous for that.
Yeah. So I have a question for both of you. Does Max need to be the number 2 for you guys to be successful next year?
Again, for me, and it's only his second year, he got lost at times here in the series when maybe he needed to take more of an initiative. But again, just a second-year player, we saw the increase that he made from last year to this year. I think he's only going to get better. I don't think he has to be the number 2. I just think he has to be a little bit more decisive with some of his decision-making and kind of a little bit more aggressive early in ball games. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to start with James, and with the ball in his hands, you know what I mean? And then you got to go through the big fella for everything else. But then, Maxey is there. Like you said, I think it's by committee, you know what I mean? Because it could be James, it could be Maxey. And James is smart enough to know that, you know what I mean? You can see him trying to mentor him at a long time. You can see it. You can see that time like Draymond Green does with Kuminga and things of that nature. You got those guys that know that. And James is smart enough to know that he's got to be able to help all those guys together. So to answer your question, I don't think, like Nick said, I don't think he has to be number 2, but I think it's there. They know that he can be the number 2, or he could be, he can rock and roll if he has to.
I respect that.
And Ben, obviously we talked about it, but if that's the case, Maxey number 2 or not, something has to change come next year, obviously, right? Obviously the roster's there. Where do you see the biggest glaring hole for the Sixers right now? Obviously, they've got a James Harden cloud over their head in terms of contract extension. He could pick up that option. He'll be making $47 million next year. If he were to pick up that option and get a max deal, he'd be the 2nd or 3rd highest paid player in the NBA come next year. Obviously, he's not a top 5 player in the NBA, maybe at this moment in time. But again, first question to you both. Do you sign, and I might already know the answer, do you give Harden a supermax contract? What do you do with that contract? And then going forward, if you're the Sixers, what do you address this offseason? Obviously, the minutes with Embiid on the bench killed them. They had nobody even really remotely that could produce off the bench, even scoring-wise or some other positions there. What do you think they need to improve on the most come next year?
Honestly, you can't give James Harden an extension. He's not worth $47 million with $47 million in his pocket. Right.
and he could pick up that option himself.
He's not worth it at this point.
So how do you convince him not to?
Now, don't get me wrong. He still has the playmaking, but you didn't bring James Harden to be a playmaker. You brought James Harden to put 30 a night. That's what you brought him there for, and he's not that. So I'm not paying anyone premium money for half of your skill set. I'm not going to do it. But also at the same time, the biggest need, to answer the direct question, the biggest need is scoring off the bench. I think there needs to be another scoring swingman. You need a combo shooting guard, small forward that can come in and give you about 15 to 18 and need maybe another shooter or two. But I think a scorer that can come in, doesn't worry about starting, you can come off the bench and give you 15, 16 every night from a wingman position, but also could play a little bit of defense. So I'm thinking someone in that mold will be the biggest need, the biggest hole to fill, which would actually help them a lot when the Sixers have scoring lulls in late second quarter, early third quarter. Sometimes Sixers come out and they're just flat. Like if they're up, they lose the lead. If they're down, the lead gets bigger. So they need somebody who can step in when everything isn't clicking and just get hot and go. So I don't know if they have that right now.
And Joe, James Harden posting some cryptic stuff on his Instagram after that loss, saying, not everybody knows the whole story, something along those lines. Some rumors coming out after the series that he might have been a little bit banged up in Philly, obviously with that injury since the trade deadline. Obviously out of shape, you can maybe go as far as to say that. Are we going to get the same James Harden, say he's on Philadelphia's roster next year, he's able to take a pay cut, they try to make some moves, bring some other people in. If he's on the Sixers next year, do you maybe think there's a shot he could be in better shape, maybe get a little bit healthier, and maybe be better than the James Harden we saw here in 2022?
I know he's in better shape than me, so that's all that counts.
Yeah, we get you out there fight some minutes for the Sixers.
And, our staff is second to none in the league. It's been proven, you know what I mean? And everybody knows we all can get in better shape. You see when Embiid got in better shape. He was doing what he was doing. They said he wasn't in shape, and then he got in better shape. So, and then he's talking about coming in better shape.
The injury got him, I think.
Yeah, and but at the end of the day, I believe coming back full camp, getting to really know the city, getting really acclimated to here. Everything is in place for him, knowing all the things that he needs to know. I mean, that plays a lot of part. And I go back to, once again, next year, the only thing need to be is accountability and responsibility. Because you've seen the one game where Shake comes in. Shake lights it up. You gotta have it. That's a player thing. You know what I mean? You gotta watch the game.
Shake play again?
With Delaware Blue.
There we go. All right.
But you know what I'm saying, Jason?
And Larry Brown.
Larry Brown's just right. You sit on that bench, and everybody knows that Doc is the most opportunistic person out there. He's gonna give you an opportunity to go out there and shine. Yes. Whether it's Isaiah Joe, Furkan, whoever, Doc is gonna say, going out there and make me look like the genius I am. You know what I mean? But it's on the player. You sitting on the bench and you see, like Jason just said, this ain't going here. We just going down. We need shots up. That's you for you to come in, and that's when I looked at Shake. Shake saw that thing. He said, "Man, I'm just gonna go." What? How could he lose? Make sense? He got to. He's like, I can just go. Let me go put up shots. They didn't expect me to come in and be aggressive, so let me come in and be aggressive. You know what I mean? And that's the things that I'm looking at for the players taking on some of the ownership and saying, yo, this is what we need to do. And now when I get in the game, no, Strus ain't doing this. Benson ain't doing this. If they ain't let me score on my end, I'm going to slap them on their end too. You know what I mean? Because we've had those games where, okay, I ain't doing nothing offensively, but you ain't even it.
Right.
So now we kind of balance out, and let's see where let the chip fall in made. Now our superstars get back on the roll, and we back in this. So, to answer your question directly, I think he's going to come in back in great shape. I think he'll come back, and everybody's banged up in the playoffs. Nobody's playing.
Nobody's helping.
Everybody's got an injury. They just play it off real well. But I think he's going to come back amazing shape. I think we're going to come back. I just like our chances. And once again, I'm a fan first, so that's how I look at it.
I think James has to lose about 25 pounds.
25? There you go.
Because most players, if you look at the superstars that have played 15, 16 plus years in the league, they got slimmer as they got older. He's going the opposite direction. He has to lose the weight.
And again, James Harden, 32 years old,
looking
a little bit older, looking more. Chris Paul's 37, looking more a little bit like Chris Paul did those last 4 games. We'll get to CP3
Cliff Paul.
here in a little bit. But James Harden, just some stats in the second half of this series, and not good one if you're a Philadelphia fan. You don't want to hear them.
No, but if you go back to the Nets series where KD was out a little bit, Kyrie wasn't playing, James carried him.
Yeah, he did.
Now
he
carried him. But I'm saying this, so he comes in mid-season and he already rolling. You know what I mean? So he's like trying to find Because those first 4, 5, 6 games, you could see what it was going to be. And I'm telling you, when you try to sit there, and sometimes he was deferring. Because he wanted to get guys going. Like, do I go?
He absolutely was.
Because Jordan used to be like that in the beginning. You know, when he first came out, then after a while, he became a facilitator. Let me get them going. Let me get Scotty off. Let me get so-and-so. And then I'm going to go. Let me get Hart Grant off. Because he knew those guys were having some issues. You know what I mean? So let me get them in their confidence.
That's what a
early, so I can go and go. And that's what, in my opinion, that's what I thought James was. I remember, I just grew up with guards like that see that, you know, oh, let me just get so-and-so this dunk and he gonna play his butt off. You know what I mean? Let me get so-and-so his first jump shot. And I think that's where a lot. So I'm looking forward to the off. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the off season in a full training camp, and I think we're gonna make some noise.
And again, in Game 5, it was more so James Harden taking all those shots. They didn't get the win there. Apparently, Joel Embiid a little bit frustrated after that one. So it looks as if though James Harden kind of said, you know what, Joel Embiid, you kind of take the lead here in game number 6. And it was Joel taking all those shots, James taking pretty much none of those shots. So they got to find that balance. Hopefully they will. Again, with that offseason workout, training camp, a lot can be changed. Hopefully they're able to find that there. James Harden in the second half in this series against Miami, 11 turnovers, just 9 shots made, 32 total points on 32 shots in the second half of the game.
Again? Was it
32 points on 32 shots in second half action in the series against Miami. So struggling is James Harden again. We'll see more so how they will look next year.
Next, right there. That was a struggle there.
We will see how the Sixers do coming in. Obviously, what they do here in the offseason. Again, we talked about it. Doc Rivers is back. Dalen Morey is supposed to be big game hunting this offseason. We'll see what he decides. Maybe something up his sleeve as he's apparently desperately looking to add a third star to the Sixers this offseason.
Bradley Beal?
Bradley Beal's the name. Again, Joe, only 2 come to mind. We talked about it last week, Jason. That's Levine, who's an unrestricted free agent. A lot of people think he'll re-sign with Chicago. We don't know. Bradley Beal, though, has been the big name servicing around Philly. Again, not much time left to talk about the Sixers. Do you guys see that happening? What do you think's going on?
Donovan Mitchell?
Oh, man, Donovan Mitchell. Again, well, what did he shoot from 3 this year? 30%, maybe, something like that. He took a little bit of a step back outside shooting-wise. Joe, you want Donovan Mitchell?
I'm not a Donovan Mitchell fan.
We know. We know. We know.
So we'll see what the Sixers do. Will Brad Beal be a Sixer? We don't know. We'll find out. Will James Harden be a Sixer? We don't know how much money he'll be making next year. A lot of questions for the Sixers to answer this offseason. We'll keep it going here, though. Heading over to the Suns and the Mavericks, Game 7. We haven't talked since then. Game 7 in Phoenix, maybe one of the most unpredictable outcomes we have seen in the postseason in a while. An absolute slugfest. The Mavericks blowing them out in Phoenix. It was the Luka Doncic show. I mean, we'll start there before we get into the stats and the players. Chris Paul was not seen in the last 4 games for Phoenix, the so-called point god, not showing up for the team when they needed him. It was all Luka Doncic taking over. He has the Mavericks going to the Western Conference Finals, step back 3 in the corner. He was feeling it. Jason, Devin Booker, and Luka got into it a lot during this series.
I loved every minute of it.
I think Devin Booker woke a monster in Luka Doncic. Devin Booker couldn't come or raise to the occasion there here in Game 7. What'd you see in Game 7? You had the Mavericks in 7?
I had the Mavericks in 7. I'd said before the series started, I didn't like the matchup of Phoenix. Luka's 6'9". Who you gonna put Jay Crowder on him?
They tried to guard him with Chris Paul. They would switch off. I mean, good stuff offensively. They would switch off Dallas offensively. They got the matchup with Doncic on CP3.
He's like 6'9", 232.
Yes, he is.
He plays at his own pace.
Chris
He
Paul's
sees the entire floor.
Chris Paul is under 6 foot, $170.
But Luka can play 4 different positions if he wanted to. But he gets everybody else involved, like you were saying. You get your others involved early. Everybody's good and going, and then you can
100%.
put your own imprint on the game. But they beat the Connie Hawkins, the Kevin Johnson, the Tom Chambers out the Phoenix Suns. It was bad. It was bad.
It was. And now, Jason, again, is this a loss where the Phoenix coming in finals last year up 2-0 in Milwaukee, maybe looking as if they were going to be the NBA champions? This year, #1 seed, best record in the NBA. They come in with all the momentum in the world. A little bit of a battle with New Orleans there in the opening series, but nobody really thought much of it. Coming in here to round 2, this is a loss, a big loss, a bad loss in Game 7 of a series against Dallas. Ayton, a no-show, pulled from the game in Game 7. Monty Williams, second two-time Coach of the Year in a row here for Monty Williams. Is this a loss for Phoenix that makes you maybe think, hey, we break this thing up now. Chris Paul's 37 years old. Where's that window? This was supposed to be the year. Devin Booker's still young. They're kind of tipping that line between youth and a little bit older there. What if you're the Suns, what does this loss do for you?
I break this team up. Only because of the fact that the Suns bench isn't really that great. It wasn't that great last year either, but it got exposed in the NBA Finals last year, and it got exposed again in the second round matchup. It's their bench. They have a bunch of small guards on their bench. They don't have any guys that can come in and take up the space eaters, take up some size and space outside of
maybe a Sixer
outside of
like the Sixers
outside of JaVale McGee. Who they have on the bench that strikes fear into you? I'm going to get energy and effort from them every time.
And let me ask you this, Jason, the guy that you highlighted so far in the show before the playoffs started, Cameron Payne, was big for them in the playoffs last year on their way to an NBA Finals appearance. He is nowhere to be found this year.
Johnson disappeared too.
They benched him in favor of Landry Shamet, who they were bringing in as their first man off the bench here.
Was he a Sixer before?
He was a Sixer. He's been a couple places now in LA. He's been floating around there, but that didn't work either. You mentioned the bench, Cameron Payne, Landry Shamet, not the best, and it showed Chris Paul. They were attacking Chris Paul all day defensively, Joe. Luka was just taking advantage, and they were just scoring left and right on him there.
And we talked about Luka just different. I mean, he really is. And like you said about his body and things of that nature, you know, Luka's another guy. If you look at him, he almost kind of Jimmy Butler-esque with just a next level talent. Makes sense?
Never going to speed him up.
Thank you. You're not
going to speed him up.
You're not going to rattle him. Nope. He don't give, you know what I mean? He done stopped with the referee stuff.
Yeah, he has a little bit lately, that's for sure.
But he done slowed that thing down tremendously. Probably to me, the biggest thing that happened to them, and I don't say this bad, was when he had the little injury or the little setback, and they played without him. He got to watch and say, oh, and like you just said, now he comes out. And, you know, they talk about the quote-unquote point God set the table. Well, nobody ate over there in Phoenix. That table was barren. But now Luka come out, and he set the table for those guys. And let's give Jalen Brunson, you know, his flowers. I mean, he just continuously getting better and better and better and knowing his role. And give Bullock credit because he stepped to the challenge with Chris Paul from the door and said, no, you're not going to do this. And like you, I'm surprised that Payne wasn't really playing much. Cam, who showed up big last year against Milwaukee, where was he to be found? And once again, like you said, there's nobody to strike fear. You might as well put McGee out there because you know you're going to play crazy, knock somebody inside the head, knock them down. Maybe that'll change maybe that change the trajectory of the game a little bit, through the momentum. But it was nothing else there. And I mean, for Luka to do this, for Luka to do this in Phoenix, like you said, with all the accolades, Monty Williams, the whole nine, I did not see this coming.
And again, Jason, we talked about it. You picked the Mavericks in 7. Those role players, they stepped up big for Dallas this entire series.
Listen, when I was looking at Dallas on paper, their bench players used to be starters elsewhere. People forget that. Like, they're not just career bench players.
Right.
Like, Dinwiddie was actually a star in Brooklyn before he got hurt. Yeah. Bullock was actually a starter in Detroit. And he's a part-time starter on the Clippers before. So they have players who have been the guy for periods of time, and you know their roles now. But I think the acquisition of Dinwiddie and Bertans from the Wizards for Porzingis just changed their whole season.
It did. They
changed their whole season.
They thought adding Porzingis, they wanted to spread him out 5 wide, open the floor for Luka. Kristaps was not doing that for them. Obviously, they made that decision to trade. And you mentioned Ethan, changed almost their whole season around there in the second half, getting rid of Porzingis. You're able to bring in some of those guys. Maxi Kleber now, obviously he was there, but he's spreading the floor phenomenally. He's shooting over, I believe, 46% from 3 at 6.5 attempts per game. He has been spectacular for them. He's what they thought Porzingis was going to be able to do for them. And those role players, like we said, like you mentioned, I mean, when they're playing as well as that, that's how you can beat a top team in the NBA record-wise.
And once again, it comes down to everybody knowing their role and accepting
They did, and they're the perfect team for that. They've got that.
You know what I mean? And when you have, you got crazy ownership in Mark Cuban. That kind of just let
going at it with Lil Wayne right now.
I don't know about that.
He's coming out there. He's more excited than anybody out there. Man. You know what I mean? And I just love their makeup. You know, I wanted Phoenix to win. You know, I'm a Monty Williams fan. You know what I mean? I love Coach, and I think he does things the right way. And I love his post-game comments. And he said, you know, when we were getting all the accolades and all that We were taking it. He said, now we got to take this too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's the truth. And that's the part of being a professional. But I think Phoenix, they got some major decisions to make. Especially with big fella.
And let's get to that.
And and also with the point guard. You know what I mean? What do you do? Because there's nothing else back there right now for them. I mean, unless they hand the keys over to Payne. And
again, don't see that happening. Obviously, how he has played recently. You take a look at Chris Paul. Ever since that 37th birthday 4 games ago, 10-1-4, 13-2-4, 5 turnovers, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 10 assists, 4 turnovers, 5, 5, and 7 turnovers. So again, assist to turnover ratio has been his kind of thing of his career. How he's been so good, just turning the ball over, couldn't find ways to score, couldn't get to his spots at all in those last 4 games. And like Joe mentioned, Jason, where do you go from here? Because that window with Chris Paul as your point guard, that's going to be closing relatively soon. Do you move on from him? Do you move on from DeAndre Ayton, who's your young former #1 overall pick at center? Some conflict there with him and Monty Williams, pulling him out of that Game 7. Apparently you told him you quit on us. That was the quote going around from Monty to Ayton, at least the people said courtside. Did you see enough from Ayton here in the postseason? Because without Devin Booker, he stepped up when they needed him to in that series with New Orleans and early on. He was giving you 22 and 10. Didn't see him here in that second round. What do you think happens with DeAndre Ayton going forward?
Ayton is a very good NBA player. He's a big man that has a skill set that a lot of people don't actually have. I think him being from that area and playing in college ball, Arizona, and playing in Phoenix, I think if he wants to be a better player, he has to get out of that element. The hometown kid, hometown hero doesn't always work for people. He has to get out of there. He needs a fresh set of scenery. But if they're going to say him or Chris Paul, I would let Chris Paul walk. Because of the fact that Ayton is, 23, 24 probably?
Young, probably. Yeah,
and Booker's like 26. Mm-hmm. You form a core with young talent first.
And you got Bridges there as well.
And you can mix in veterans, but you pay that man because you can't teach size, and he can actually shoot with his size.
Mid-range has come along very
and he plays defense. Like, you don't have a lot of big men that can score and play defense. They do one or the other. He can do both. And he runs the floor. He's in shape.
You don't have to get on him.
So you guys aren't worried about what you saw there in Game 7 or some of these other games where he kind of disappeared for stretches?
He's young. That's a conversation that him and Coach Williams will have. Plenty of times over the offseason.
Don't seem to be on the best of terms as of right now, so again, we'll have to wait and see.
Look at Switching Sports. Look at what Kyler Murray did to the Cardinals, and now they're back on the same page. There's something in the water out there in Arizona. I don't know what it is. Something out there. We're up here scrubbing accounts and saying, I'm not going to play for you guys anymore, and then 2 weeks later, we're friends again.
So Ayton's the son next year?
If they want to continue to win, at least continue to be in the playoffs, he would need to be. Now,
will he be?
If they want to go back to the Suns when Devin Booker was there and they still weren't winning anything, they do that. But
what's your heart tell you?
My heart tells me he leaves. Even if they offer him, he leaves.
He's done. What about you?
I think if they offer him, he stays.
Okay.
I really do, because at the end of the day, you got superstar, you got the right coach, you got a lot of things in place. I mean, Phoenix is a great place to be at. It's not going to be hard for them to attract quality guys if that's the direction they want to go in. But I like DeAndre. I think, like you said, he has all the other things, and he has a lot of intangibles. He runs the court even when he knows he's not getting the ball. He fills that lane defensively. He takes a lot of things off the table for them defensively. He's always back there anchoring the defense. So I think he stays.
I tell you, got to go. Jay Crowder got to go.
I think
you cannot keep having quadruple single stat lines every game. You have 2 points. 3 assists, 3 rebounds.
And sometimes he'll hit his shots. Every now and then he'll hit his shots.
You can't have Bullock over there doing what he's doing and Crowder. You got to match.
Nothing.
You got to match.
And I believe, again, not too much of a Jay Crowder fan. You had him in Boston, so you've seen him for a while. He's another Marquette Golden Eagle, actually, while we're on this subject. But I believe in 2 of those games, that series against Dallas, he was their leading scorer.
Right.
So that, again, I don't see him being in Phoenix next year either. I see just a change-up of his career like we've seen from him in the past. There are going to be some change-ups in Phoenix next season. Another big question will be, will 37-year-old Chris Paul be their point guard come next year? A lot of decisions to make out there in Phoenix as the top team in the NBA record-wise goes down in round number 2. So let's get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Let's get to it.
Jason, we didn't have a chance to talk about since the Game 7 win over Milwaukee. Boston able to pull out Game 6 and 7 with their back against the wall, taking down the defending NBA champions. Boston, again, a lot of people had whoever won that series as their eventual NBA champion. That was the big series there so far in the playoffs that everybody was watching, and it was Boston. Jason Tatum and company, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, all getting them out of that round.
Horford.
And then they go on the road to Miami. Once again, Miami home court, your top seed in the East, led by, of course, Jimmy Butler. After disposing of the Philadelphia 76ers, they welcome in Boston on Tuesday night. And Jason, it was a close game in the first half. Boston had a 6-point lead going into the locker room, 62-54. But as you've heard now since Tuesday night, that third quarter separated the game. A huge third quarter started with the defense from Miami, forcing turnovers. Jason Tatum had 8 turnovers in the game, 7 of them in the third quarter. Whoa. You just don't see that, and Miami took advantage. What did you see from your Boston Celtics in Game 1?
I saw they got overconfident in the first half.
Thank you for admitting it. Thank you.
Overconfident?
That's what I have right here.
Elaborate a little bit. What
overconfident.
Look what I wrote right there. What'd that say?
Overconfident. You can't make this stuff up. How about that?
Overconfident.
Great minds think alike.
Overconfident in the first half. They were in Miami. Oh, we're down 2 stars and we're up 6 or 7.
Yeah,
okay,
very clear.
But
No Horford or
those
Smart.
2 stars not being in the second half killed you. And then you started doing the craziest things with the basketball I've ever seen. I mean, it was play after play after play.
Turnover.
I'm like, who are you throwing to? He doesn't even play for the team. Who are you throwing the ball to?
Tatum just.
It starts with Jason Tatum.
And honestly, like I always say, what do I always say, guys? The city of Miami is undefeated. It happened again, you know? It happened again.
They were good for the first half, warm out there.
It happened again. But no, it was just it was a dud. Boston gives you one of those games every series where you're like, what are you doing out there? But then they shore up the ship somehow. But I think really
they really do.
The key was missing Horford's and Smart's leadership in the second half. When you have the 2 smartest players on the team didn't play. Horford and Smart are the 2 smartest players on that Celtics team. And Smart is the heart and soul of the team. They go how he goes. Even if he's not scoring, it's his energy, it's his leadership, it's just him being there. So that not happening, and then not having Horford there either. So you have nobody that can guard Bam at all. So Bam just having a field day, and then Butler's taking every angle to the basket. And then the others, the Gabe Vincents and the Tyler Heroes and everybody's just going off because Tatum and Brown spending so much energy on offense trying to score them back in the game, and they're getting blown by on defense. And then that's what happened. Miami Heat with a better team, and they played a game 1. Simple as that. No excuses. Got beat.
And again, Game 2 tonight here, 8:30 p.m. We talked about Jimmy Butler, Joe. He just seems to be that guy, obviously doing great in Miami. It was a Jimmy Butler game. 41 points for Jimmy, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 of 19 from the floor. Took the game over in that third quarter. Miami started that third quarter on a 22-2 run. We mentioned Jason Tatum's 7 turnovers in that quarter led to those buckets from Miami. Butler outscored the Celtics himself in the third quarter, 17 points to 14 points. Celtics 2 of 15, 0 of 7 from 3 with 8 turnovers in the quarter. Does this get any better for Boston? Obviously, the other 3 quarters, they didn't play too bad. Jimmy Butler, are they going to need him to get you 41 every time for the Heat to get a win here? How do you see this series progressing, Joe, after seeing what you saw in Game 1?
I mean, when you're talking Jimmy Butler, one word, efficient.
Yeah.
Efficient. Look at the numbers, don't lie. He got a poker face all throughout the game. Never too high, never too low. I'm like Jason. I mean, everybody in the world knows that team goes as Marcus Smart. He's not there. That's a big move. Horford with his experience to settle him down, know how to neutralize Bam. That's not there. I said Williams had a great game before, right? Hit the threes, the whole 9, right?
27,
and all that. You know, he came in a little cocky. He made this first one, and then it all was downhill after that. But if you looked at him, and he was mic'd up at one time, he was in the huddle saying, "Yo,
he was definitely being the voice. Yeah.
Let's not point the finger at this one or point the." And it was the overconfident that like everybody was getting a little bit like feeling themselves, and he's like, "No, let's." And I love that Smart was on the sideline, still trying to coach him up, and that's the one thing you didn't mention about Marcus Smart, his ability to not let you take any play off.
Not a one.
And that's what they were missing.
And that's what he had with Jimmy Butler.
Right,
Like,
and he had the ability to make
opposite.
sure, right. And his guys responded to him. Once again, at the top of the show, what did I say? Accountability, responsibility. You don't got Marcus Smart out there, so where's the accountability and responsibility? It falls on two guys that, quote unquote, supposed to be those guys, but just because they got the best talent don't mean that they're the best leaders.
Yeah, correct.
Right? But on the other side, you got the guy that everybody discounts, which is Jimmy Butler. He should be at the conversation of elite level, all that, but he doesn't. But he holds everybody accountable, and he makes sure that he's the first one that's doing what he's supposed to do, and he leads by example. I see. It all depends. I know Horford might be back, but to me, it still hinges on Smart. I might be wrong, but I'm that much a Smart fan that I think if he's not there, it's going to be a dog fight for him then.
And again, Marcus Smart most likely going to get that task of Jimmy Butler, obviously going forward here potentially in game 2, obviously dropping 41 points in game number 1.
I will say I did see a bright spot. And I saw it at the end of the last series. Payne Pritchard's getting warmed up offensively again. 18, but he's getting warmed up offensively again. And that was missing in the first round series. He wasn't really scoring at all. So he wasn't really even playing in those games.
So is he a liability defensively?
He can't stick no Jimmy.
He can't guard. he can't guard Jimmy.
You put him on Gabe Vince. I mean, Gabe Vince had 17, but he's a shooter, man. I mean, you can find ways to succeed with him.
Pritchard
on the floor,
brings energy to
obviously.
the floor.
I agree. I like Payne Pritchard.
I like Payne Pritchard, but Tatum with the 7 turnovers
in one quarter.
I think that Jaylen Brown has to have the ball more in his hands, initiating the offense in game 2. If Smart's not playing.
And hopefully again, Smart will take a little bit of the load off.
But either way, I think that Jaylen Brown had the ball in his hands. I think he's a better facilitator out of timeouts and all half-court sets, like inbounding the ball. I think Tatum, when he has a full head of steam, he can kind of see the floor. But I think Jaylen Brown's kind of more of the
natural pass.
Okay, I'm going to hit you there. But when Tatum does pass the ball and finds people in the right spots, that was a problem Marcus Smart had with him last season, that he wasn't finding people in the right spots. And he worked on that this offseason.
Yeah, he's
ball
improved.
handling, too.
Absolutely.
But I think it was just a bad game. It was just a bad game.
No, it's a bad third quarter.
Yeah, it's just true. Not even a bad game. You're right. It was a bad third quarter.
On cruise. They were really, but like you said, they got overconfident. They went into halftime and they didn't come out with a sense of urgency.
They didn't come back out with the same team.
No, they didn't.
And again, going forward, if I'm a Boston fan like you, Jason, again, I'm not too concerned with that first game, as you mentioned, Joe. Just one quarter, basically, that you had such a bad quarter. Chalk it up, move forward, and they've done a great job of moving forward after games like that so far here in the playoffs. You look at some of the stats, 7. Way off. Again, I'm not too worried.
That's
Again,
a
if you're Boston.
fight.
But we talked about Jimmy Butler, smartest player on the floor. Again, you talked about efficiency. He knows what he does well. He doesn't try to do things he doesn't do well, shooting the 3 ball. He'll take one a game. Maybe if he's open, he'll knock it down. But he gets to his spots in the mid-range. He draws fouls. He gets to the free throw line. Again, 17 of 18 from the free throw line in game 1 because he realized the refs were calling that down in the paint. He was getting to the paint, getting to the free throw line, and again, just efficient, a phenomenal play there.
And he recognized and he said he was looking for the switch with Pritchard. He was looking for it. And at that point in time, that's where players got to say, man, no, we're not switching. We're not switching. Right, you know what I mean? You go over, you go under, I'll show to hold him up, but we're not switching. You get back to your man, I'm going to stay with, and that's what's got to happen. You just got to push Pritchard out the way and get to him, whoever's sticking him, because that's what P.J. Tucker does for the Heat.
So valuable as well.
You know what I mean? Here's a guy, and I know we talk about Jimmy being the smartest one, but P.J. Tucker ain't that far behind him. Smart guy.
And he's the energy, the grittiness
Yes,
that
he
Jimmy
is.
has. And Jimmy said this so far in the playoffs. He said, I never thought I'd love a teammate or a player as much as I love P.J. Tucker. So, again, that shows you what they have. And, again, I know we go back to the Sixers, heartbreak, we talk about it already, but they don't have that guy. They need that guy. We'll see if they can somehow get him here in the offseason. Does Jimmy Butler have to score 35, 40 night for the Heat to win the series?
Honestly, against this Boston team who score points in bunches, Jimmy's probably going to have to average 30 a game. He's going to probably score 30 every game. And I don't see Bam has to score. If they would actually want to win the entire series, Bam has to score.
I believe he had 10 and 8.
Bam can't have numbers. With the money he's about to get, he can't have numbers like that.
And so here we go, Jason. You said 7 games. Who goes to the NBA Finals in the Eastern Conference?
I'm going to be biased.
Celtics in 7?
Celtics in 7.
Joe,
I had to stick with my team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of
Who's
course.
that?
I mean, I
So-
figured we'd get that answer.
Who's
Joe,
that?
over to you now. Boston and Miami. You saw Game 1 under the belt. Miami, taking care of business
I
at
ain't
home.
being biased. I'm going with the Heat.
The Heat, 7-6.
Yes. You know what I mean? Come on. They got hate with Highsmith, baby.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah, I
baby.
just, I think I
Come
do.
on. Who did he play for?
Delaware Blue Coats.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm going with the Heat, baby. You got hate with Highsmith,
That's
baby.
all right. Let's go. Beat the Heat. Let's go. Beat the Heat. Beat the Heat.
Again, I think Boston is the better team. Ime Udoka is a great coach. I think he's a really good coach. I think Spoelstra is a better coach. And again, I'm going to bet on the guy.
Ain't no thinking anything. He's a better coach.
I think he's going to be, the guy. I'm going to put my money on the guy, hypothetically speaking. Jimmy Butler, and I think is the best player on the floor. And I have to go with Jimmy Butler right now. I'm going Heat in 7. But again, I think the Boston has a better roster. I think they've got more talent. But the Jimmy Butler effect is the X factor for me. It's just too real from what I've seen over the last couple of years. So I'm going Heat in 7, Celtics in 7 as we are Eastern Conference Finals. Let's get over to the Western Conference here now between the Warriors and the Mavericks. Game 1.
Oh, man.
Well, first, again, we talked about Game 7. Luka Doncic and company blowing out Phoenix. A big party on Sunday, but they had to quickly get back in action on Wednesday
get blown
night.
out themselves.
And then they get beat up pretty early in this one. So coming down from that big emotional victory on Sunday, going to take that some time to maybe get back down to earth. Warriors now 7-0 at home in the postseason here in 2022. 56% from the floor. Mavs shot just 36%. And it was the Warriors' defense here in Game 1 able to I can't say take advantage, but slow down Luka Doncic, something that nobody has been able to do so far. And obviously we look to him to rebound. There's no formula for shutting down Luka Doncic, but they did a great job, Jason, there in Game number 1. And they're able to get a nice victory.
This number here, Mavs shot 36% from the floor. Out-rebounded, 51-35. That's all you see.
And then you look down at the three-point shooting there, 11 of 48 from 3. The Mavs been knocking down their threes in the postseason, 23% in Game 1.
But I think it just boils down to, I think it was more of the Game 7 fatigue coming over into Game 1.
Big emotional
tilt. And the more experienced team won on their home floor, which is what you should do in Game 1. But Luka only having 20, it's not going to happen again. Nah. Now, he has to probably score 40 a night for him to get out of this series. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to have to score, He'll have big numbers every night.
And again, you don't like to blitz Luka. That's kind of been where he's been at his best here in the postseason. But they're bringing double teams. Even you saw some triple teams once he was able to get in the paint. Not able to find some of those guys open, active hands in the passing lanes for Golden State there in Game number 1. Obviously, he'll rebound, Joe. But what do the Mavericks got to do to have success in this series? The Mavericks, the defensive team, the Warriors, the offensive team coming in. Again, the Warriors, a lot of people coming into the series thought, how can they deal with Luka Doncic and Mavericks' offensive capability? Because defensively, they just haven't been a great defensive team. They're all offense. What did you see there in Game 1?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to shooting. They're not going to shoot that bad from 3. You're talking about took them 48, only making 11. And once again,
Said that about the Sixers too, though.
What you said about them blitzing them, it worked because he had the 7 turnovers. Yeah. On top of that, you can't have that from Luka. And it was just an uncharacteristic game for Luka. You know what I mean? He'll bounce back. I think, coming in after that hard-fought games, the way it was played and all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of plays out that way. You're coming into Warrior country and things of that nature. You expect that. When I look at the Warriors, I look at 2 words: balance and being back consistent. Everybody was looking at Draymond 10-9, Porter 10 points. My guy Looney I was talking about. Thank God they got Kleber because now Looney can play, and I think Looney can outplay Kleber, and it shows. You know what I mean? And there you go, the length again. You got the length back on the court. And then Curry, Wiggins, Clay, everybody's doing what they're doing, and this is what they do best, is when everybody's balanced. Curry's going to be Curry. Everybody else falling where they need to play. And you're looking at all this, and Kuminga's name is not even on here as far as doing anything, and he still played a great part when it came to playing defense and things of that nature. So once again, everybody understanding their role, everybody knowing what they have to do. Okay, maybe I ain't getting the 10 points and 2 dunks in Kuminga, but I'm gonna stay in my assignment. You know what I mean? I was out in Chicago for a pre-draft, and everything I told the guys, my thing with us on 3 was stay focused all the way through. And when you're playing against Curry, when you're playing against the Warriors, when you're playing against Clay, when you're playing against those guys that can shoot, you gotta stay focused all the way through the play, offensively and defensively. So the things for the Mavs, they got to get back to being disciplined. That's all it takes. And they're not going to miss that many daggone shots again from 3. That's just crazy. 48, daggone, man. That's just a crazy number.
And again, they averaged in the series against Phoenix, I believe, 36.5 threes a game. They got up 48 there against Golden State, hit just 11 of them. Again, the Warriors hitting their shots here, Jason. When they hit their shots, they're going to be tough to beat in general, but 7 players in double figures offensively for them.
It reminds you of the 2015-2016 Warriors. They look like the old Warriors. That's what game one
strength in numbers.
Strength in numbers. It's like strength in numbers Warriors. That's exactly what it looks like.
As I said, that consistency is back. Everybody's across it,
And I think they have better players now offensively than they had on the original team. And that's the scary part about this team.
So you got Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole.
Say that name again. And we're talking about former number 1 pick in the draft, and he's an afterthought on this team. But he still puts up good numbers.
And again, I want to give some props to Andrew Wiggins this year.
You have to.
I mean, for what he's been able, coming from Minnesota, took a lot of heat over there, wasn't the guy everybody expected, but he's doing what he needs to, or is asked of him, what needs to be done with Golden State, the defense. You saw him up in Luka's face there in that game, got him real good across the face, a big scratch that Luka had early on in that game, letting him know he was right there for him. And I just want to give him some props. The Warriors had a phenomenal regular season, that record 3rd seed in the West, kind of went down. Steph got hurt late in the year, so they lost some games. But I think Wiggins has been great for them this season.
Yes.
And once again, it goes back to being a professional. It's going back to accepting where I'm at, and this is where I'm at, and it's about winning. And when you've already been at that level, you can understand what it takes. And he's already won a championship, so he's like, I'm good. I'm going to just play where I need to play and be where I need to be. So he's good.
And again, Mavericks, Luka 6 of 18, 7 turnovers. We talked about that. Brunson 6 of 16. He's been the number 2 to Luka, Batman, or to Robin, to his Batman so far here in the playoffs. 14, 4, and 4. Reggie Bullock, 12 points, 3 of 10 shooting. Dinwiddie with 17. Finney Smith with just 5. And those big guys, some of those others that were doing big things against Phoenix, Maxi Kleber was one of them. Only 3 points for him there in game number 1. So I do, going back to weeks ago, I had the Warriors winning the championship back. I don't know when we talked about it. But when you look down here at game number 1, unlike you guys said, the Mavs aren't going to come out and play like this again by any means. What do you see happening going forward here?
Well, before we get to this game, I want to go back to what you said about the Warriors winning the championship. I believe the NBA champion comes out the East either way.
Whoa.
Out the East. It's going to be Eastern Conference team that wins the NBA championship. But
a lot of people feel that way.
But with this game here, like you said, they're not going to shoot that bad again. But if the Warriors are clicking like this now, they're able to hide stuff on defense again because everybody's healthy now. And Draymond's back. So the quarterback is back.
Yeah.
Draymond's such a difference, maybe even at this age part of his career.
When they lose games without Draymond, it's because Steph will get exposed on defense. That's not happening now. He's actually giving more effort on defense too.
Right.
So when you're not getting exposed and you're giving him better effort, and his ankles are still healthy right now. He's back. Remember, he got hurt at the end of the season too, so he's back healthy. It's scary, but again, I still like the matchups that the Mavs present they have big guards. Like everybody's like 6'6", 6'7". Well, the Warriors used to be like that, but now that those guys they have those 6'5" guys. They're like 6'5", 190.
They, again, one of the smallest teams left in the playoffs.
They're a little thin.
I think one player, I think that played a lot of minutes for that, or a couple. I think their average height is 6'6.5" for Golden State. Definitely one of the smaller lineups.
So, but again, nobody can do what Golden State does. Nobody shoots like them. Nobody. When you try to mimic what they do, you will lose every time.
Yeah, when that ball is moving like that, and they've got the shooters like that, yeah, they're gonna. I mean, you said, Jason, when they're clicking, they're gonna be extremely
They got 2 head
tough
coaches.
to beat. And again,
Facts.
you got Iguodala on the bench as well.
Yeah, you got Iggy ain't even playing.
He ain't even playing. He wouldn't like this.
And you talk when Gary Payton II went down, that was a big blow to their defense. He was in their starting lineup. But then you talk about Wiggins stepping up defensively, Otto Porter being the two-way player that he has been for them recently, a guy that can rebound the basketball as well, career 40% three-point shooter. He's given them great minutes as well. And like you said, strength in numbers. They've got some guys, again, even off the bench that you might not even have thought about. Like Otto Porter. Some people might even say earlier, this is Otto Porter's on the Warriors.
But again,
right.
They have bench players who were stars before.
Right. Porter and DC.
So even if they're not at the superstar level right now, they can give you superstar minutes for like 8 to 10 minutes. Then they go back to themselves. But they know how to step up on the biggest stage
and they can
be that guy. And they have a lot of players. Look at you say even Iggy's not even playing, but
another two-way
former Finals MVP.
Yeah.
You know?
So they've got
That's
it,
what it is.
and they put it together here going forward. It all showed there in Game 1 with the 112-87 win over Dallas. But again, it's going to be hard for the Mavericks to play as poorly as that again here in Game 2. Not saying they're going to win Game 2. I've got the Warriors. I'm going to say Warriors in 6 here in the Western Conference Finals.
So do I. I got the Warriors in 6, and I'm like Jason. I mean, everybody in either team can match up with them in the East. Once they come out the West, I think Boston matches up with the Warriors well, and I believe that the Heat will match up with the Warriors well. So I mean, whatever it comes down to, you can throw them up in there. Whoever at the ground first, you can't lose. But I picked Warriors all the way through to the championship if they got out of there. So I'm gonna stick with the Warriors.
I'm gonna stick with
Dallas in 7.
I'm gonna stick with Dallas. I said Dallas before. I'm gonna stick with Dallas again. I think as the series goes on, I think the size and the strength of Dallas will wear down Golden State at some point. I think the experience.
That's what they did to Chris Paul in Phoenix.
Yeah, the experience will be there for Golden State, but it's something about this Dallas team that I can't put my finger on, but they just have it, and that's what I see. And I just think it's going to be another 7-game series, but I think when you add the Luka factor, I think Dallas will be the Western Conference representative in the finals. I just got that feeling. I may be wrong,
and
I may be wrong.
You are, but that's big.
But I we'll see. You know?
We will.
And again, we talked about Luka Doncic coming into these playoffs when we had our playoff preview. I mean, his numbers from the previous postseason, it was only 10 games that he's played before this postseason in 2022. I mean, almost averaging a 33-point triple-double. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And then, obviously, he gets the big signature win that he hadn't had already early in his career with that Game 7 win over Phoenix. So if Luka Doncic is able to take the Mavericks to the NBA Finals here, I mean, you got to think he's already cemented himself as one of the best players in the NBA. He's got that win now over Phoenix, the top seed. If he's somehow able to take out the Warriors, where are you going to put Luka on the NBA pedestal here?
Top 5.
Oh.
I mean, if he takes down the Warriors, I'm with. I mean, where is he right now? Too. I mean, he's got top 10 now. What do you think?
He's top 7 right now. We're gonna push the other guys right out of there.
Well, yeah, if he does, he pulls off this.
Top 5. And Jason, we talked again a couple of weeks ago, and we were in agreement. Giannis was our best player in the world at the moment. Boston was able to send him home. Again, where do you have Luka right now?
Luka's in the top 10 for me, but it's like 6. Like, it does not fall off the top 5. So I think that I honestly think a player like Luka, this current playoff format this year has probably put him in that top 5 conversation right now because he's only getting better, and he's 23.
I think he's be younger.
23.
I mean, that's insane.
I'm saying I got him at 7. Yeah. He mess around and go and beat them. He bumps Jason Tatum.
But Jason's still in top 5 either way.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But you know what I mean? He bumps down, and the Wizards come and bump out.
I mean, if we can think of 5 right here. I mean, you got Giannis, KD, right? You got LeBron in your top 5 right now?
I don't have LeBron or KD in my top 5 right now.
You don't have KD in your top 5.
Neither one of them.
Okay. Give me your top 5. I mean,
And
off the top of
Jason
your head.
Tatum's in there.
You got Tatum in your top 5?
Got Giannis.
Yeah.
Giannis.
Joel.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Joel's on top. That's why I don't have KD in there.
Yeah. And then I would, and you can't leave out the Joker.
That's true. Man.
I have Giannis, Joker, Embiid, Luka, Tatum.
I've got Luka over Tatum. I'm going Giannis, KD, Embiid, Luka, and Joker.
Got you. So I'm saying if Luka's here and he jumps in here,
Yeah.
I think
then
Luka
one of
bumps
these
Joker
guys
up.
gonna bump.
I think-
he
okay,
bumps
so
the
I got
Joker
Joker.
or Joel
I
gonna
bump
bump one of them because they ain't got no championship.
But the thing is, I think what Giannis is, he's the best player in the world, but he's the best player in the world because of what he can do. He can only do really 2 things, but he does them so well that nobody stops him. But again, you see in the playoffs, Giannis isn't a playmaker. And that's what they needed being down Middleton in that series. And Giannis gonna have to learn how to shoot the mid-range jumper.
And again, I do think he's getting a little bit better each year, but not consistent.
Well, he will because he learned how to shoot free throws.
He's
So
got the
he'll
work
learn.
ethic, man. He never
He'll
quits.
he'll put the work in. You know what I mean?
But that's what killed him in this series. His mid-range game that wasn't there.
And he still had a phenomenal season.
But he's drawing. But again, you can't draw that many offensive fouls like that. You can't keep driving to the bucket and just overpower
Yeah.
everybody. This is not the NBA that we're used to back in the day, where those would be regular just play on. No, those are offensive fouls.
he had a lot of those.
So,
Well,
well,
it's
yeah.
gonna be
I mean,
interesting.
either way, we have a great top 5 either way.
Yeah.
That's
No
And
matter how
again,
you
quickly
slice it.
before we move on to the draft lottery, we just gave our top 5s, our top 6s. Where's Jimmy Butler?
top 10.
Yeah,
Top
definitely
10
top
still
10.
behind
yeah.
those guys.
Top 10, yeah.
So I mean, when you look at it
Around
now,
8.
and you
I
have
get Jimmy around
so
8.
you have Tatum around 6 or 7. You like Tatum. You have Tatum ranked over Jimmy Butler.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It just
Because of what he can do.
right.
So let me ask you this: you swap Butler and Tatum, swap teams. You think Boston's doing what Miami's been able to do?
The Boston's winning it all. You put Jimmy Butler on that team.
Well, I meant Miami. For the most part, you put Tatum, you take out Butler, you put Tatum on Miami. Are they as good as they are now?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so either.
No.
It's a different culture, different
You're
system.
right, different culture, different system. I'm
But I'm
going
saying
Jimmy
you
Butler
put-
over
you put-
Jason
But you can
Tatum.
put
put
Jimmy
JB
in
in
Boston.
Boston?
Yeah, you can put Jimmy in Boston.
Marcus Smart.
All right, we're not.
You
Put
can
him
Jimmy
in Philly. Put Jimmy Butler in Philly.
Oh, you had that. What happened?
Put it in the time machine. We'll go back.
Okay, I was just saying, you had that, right?
Oh, yes, we did. Once upon a time.
Simmons' fault, right?
On to the draft lottery. Yes, it was. God, he's a lot of things are his fault. We're moving on to the draft lottery here. Happened
I plead
on
the fifth.
before the game Tuesday night. Obviously, one of the big talking points there in New Orleans, they do get the Lakers pick. We're not going to touch on that too much here, but the lottery did
all I
come up, and in your top overall pick will go to the Orlando Magic, a team that has struggled here the last few seasons.
How
And
did
then,
they keep getting number 1 pick?
well,
Like,
I think
they had number 1 pick a lot of
I
times.
think, I think Dwight Howard was the last one, though, right? In 2004, 2003, 2004, I believe. So they get one here. I mean, last year they get Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. I did like that pick.
They
He
get
had a
all the
pretty
points from
decent
now, all
rookie
that
year.
Amway. That's what
So
it
we'll
is.
see what they can do with some of those players. Jonathan Isaac still trying to come back from injury.
Right.
OKC, they jump up to the 2 spot. Rockets fall to 3. Kings 4, and the Pistons 5. You see, this is Bleacher Report's picture image here of your top 14 picks in the lottery: Magic, Thunder, Rockets, Kings, and Pistons.
The Knicks can't win for losing,
Your
man.
top 5, they really can't. They are having, as Andy and Joe, we talked about this. Portland with the 7 spot. You saw Damian Lillard's reaction to that on Tuesday night. He was hoping they'd be a little bit higher. But guys, a lot of people view this, and we had our NCAA tournament. We talked about the tournament. We know all these guys pretty well now. It's supposed to be, or the rumor going around, it's a top 4 draft. The top 4 players at the top of this board are
I
going
think
to be
it's
the
deeper
4.
draft.
Deeper than that.
I think
Well,
it's deeper
overall,
than
but
that.
And
superstar-wise. You
But
got
I-
four
I think
guys
it's deeper
that
with
can-
superstars. I think it's deeper than 4
I'm
superstars.
gonna tell you. Listen, I
I'm not a
think.
big Keegan Murray fan. if
I-
that's where we're going.
What I'm saying is, you look at what New Orleans did. Zion comes back,
And
they
they
got
got
the 8th pick. There's gonna be somebody nice there at the 8th
Yes,
pick.
they are, for
You know
sure.
what I mean? So for a team that was right there doing what they did, they are in a. I thought that was one of the most intriguing parts of the draft.
Totally agree.
Where Portland needs a lot more. That's why Damian Lillard was like, damn. You know what I mean? But you look at somebody like New Orleans, they were smiling because they like, yo, somebody's gonna fall in that smile. I thought that was very interesting. And then after that, I think it gets a little dicey.
And again, Jason, New Orleans getting that pick in the Anthony Davis trade with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Like the
I
Knicks,
like
they
it.
get
The
way
Knicks
more.
just can't get out their own way.
I don't care who they get.
RJ Barrett, a little bit of a bright spot for them this year, right?
I like Indiana sitting at 6 though.
Exactly. That's a good for
I
them
think
as
Indiana's
well.
in at 6.
And guys, we talked about the top 4. We got Magic, OKC, the Rockets, and the Kings. Pistons just outside the top 4 getting that 5th pick.
But they're going to get a nice pick.
There's going to be 4 guys, though, that are going to go in the top 4. Not sure what order, but these are most likely going to be the 4 guys. Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga, Jabari Smith from Auburn, Paulo Banchero, obviously, from Duke, and Jaden Ivey from Purdue. Now, you got Ivey being the only point guard among this bunch, so that's going to have to do with some, with the teams and who's picking where, if they need a point guard, et cetera. But those 3 guys are most likely going to be the top 3 with Chet, Jabari, and Banchero. Ivey, a wild card there in that range as well. So the Magic, if you're the Magic sitting here at number 1, Jason, I'll start with you. Who do you take here in 2022 as the top pick?
You can't pick another guard if you're Orlando.
That's right. I'm
you got too many guards already in the last 3 years.
I think you have to choose between those 3 guys.
I think Ivy fits their system better, but they're probably going to pick on Jabari Smith from Auburn.
I think so.
I think
Again,
Jabari Smith is the number 1 pick.
You look at Orlando.
He fits that.
They have Okiki there, who's Auburn Tiger as well. You got Jonathan Isaac trying to come back from injury. Jalen Suggs. Wendell Carter kind of revitalizing his career
Cole
a little
Anthony's
bit
still there.
Cole Anthony,
you have too many guards there. You have to draft. You need to draft a forward.
And they need a game changer over there in Orlando.
Yeah, they need Chet. That's the game
No,
changer.
Chet needs sandwiches right now.
That's how he getting the league.
Chet,
They got all that good protein
he's
stuff.
the big
Airway,
wild
all the
card.
products. They got the protein products. They got some good products over there for Chet. But I mean, it's got to be either Chet or Banchero for me for that pick. It's got to be one or the other. I think they need that. Banchero gives them a different look because he's just beefy. But Chet has a lot of freaking. He has a crazy skill set. He has a really crazy skill set. So I'm thinking that they're going to go that way. I'm looking at this Jalen Duren. I'm looking at that. I mean,
Delaware native right there.
I think that'll be that.
It should be a lottery pick.
Yeah, I think he'll go to the Pistons. I think the Pistons will step out. You know what I mean? They already got Cade. You know what I mean? But they need a real banger. You know what I mean? And I think that Jalen fits that for them.
You know what? I'm going to retract what I said about Jabari Smith going number 1. Banchero has to go number 1 to Orlando because I think he's Jason Tatum 2.0.
I love Banchero.
I think they have a similar skill set.
Jason, we talked about this.
And he's bigger.
Yeah.
And we talked about
this.
He's the biggest guy out of these 4 guys.
Yeah.
But I
he's
think
the most NBA body.
So I'll say Banchero 1. I'll say Jaden Ivey 2.
So that's sneaky there.
OKC.
Point guard to
OKC.
OKC. Now they got
OKC.
Josh Giddey there and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're going to be looking for a big guy.
I think what Jaden Ivey can do is better than what Giddey and SGA can do.
I just think they need to get a big man. OKC.
I mean, you can go either way with them.
And you look at these 3 teams, Magic, OKC, and the Rockets, the big name right now going around is Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren this, Chet Holmgren. Everybody wants Chet Holmgren.
He'll be in Houston.
They think he can be the unicorn
He'll
there.
be in Houston.
Christian Wood, Jalen Green, and Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren will be in
That'd
Houston.
be crazy.
So I don't know if I would take Chet number 1. I think he will go number 1. I think he's going to go to the Magic. I like Banchero, like Jason said. Me and him had him in when we were talking.
Banchero or
going
Chet,
number 1.
you can't go either way. But if he goes Banchero, then I think Chet will fall to the Rockets because OKC would be better served.
OKC probably going to take Jabari Smith at the number 2. But they probably need another.
They probably need Ivy, but they're going to take
Jabari Smith.
Yeah.
And again, we can't miss with some of these 4 teams up ahead of the top of this draft. And then you got a wild card here. Not sure how much everybody knows about Shaedon Sharpe. The recruit to Kentucky. He reclassified due to class of 2022, so he could go to Kentucky. He was the number 1 recruit in the class. Not playing a game for the Wildcats. Now just declaring for the NBA draft. Had a terrific pro day last week. A lot of the scouts fell in love with him there at the pro day, and now he's looking like a top 5 pick. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens with Shaedon Sharpe, and he's kind of the wild card here. I'm going 5 to the Pistons.
I like Jalen Duren. I know he's from here, but he played for my second favorite college squad. So go Tigers. I love Memphis.
It's gonna be interesting.
And again, Jalen making his decision over at the Grail Sports Complex here in Delaware when he decided to go to Memphis. So again, having him playing for the
Shout out to the Grail.
Iowa.
I love that complex there. Shout out to the Grail.
Very nice.
Yes, it is.
Complex.
So a lot going on there with the draft lottery. They're your top 5 picks. We're going to have some of our mock drafts, and we'll dive more into our NBA draft stuff as we get closer to draft time. But that about does it for us here on this Thursday night. We gave you an NBA preview, talked a little Sixers, draft lottery. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight, guys, with Miami and Boston. Final words as we head out here on Thursday. Jason, anything you want to
Final
close
words,
with?
it's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
Final words is playoff, baby. Anything can happen.
Conference Finals time, baby. Again, Warriors and Mavericks, Heat and Celtics. I'm going to go. It should be a good one. I'm going Warriors Heat NBA Finals. Jason, I know you think you got Mavericks Celtics NBA Finals. And Joe, I think you're in the same boat as me. You got Warriors.
Warriors, yes.
So again,
You
we'll
heard
see
it
what
here,
happens.
DETV, baby.
We'll see what happens. Watch some basketball tonight. Some great basketball looking up ahead. And we will see you next time right here on DETV. For Nick Alessandrini, Jason McCall, and Joe Richmond, we'll see you later.